Hi, Captain Lee fan. I went swimming. My hair is still wet. It's crazy. It feels like it's I don't know. It's just there's humidity or what it is, but it's still wet from swimming because I swam for about, I don't know. I was in the water for like 3 hours. First, I was doing some um, moving rocks around, which is a good workout too. Huge, big, like bluestone rocks out of the bottom of the lake, and of course doing my sweeping. And then I was doing some gemstone hunting, and then I took a really long swim. And what else? Just kind of, it was nice. It was like I was unplugged from everything, and then I went up and I did some crafts. Little lady, I took a video, if you hear me, of the new vibes that I made. And if you don't like it, it's fine. I understand, but I was too much of a perfectionist to go with the blue and white one. So I redid it, but now it's the birds. I don't know. I made you a video. I'll show it to you. Or I'll post it in Slack or something. And then, what else did we do? Dinner. Did some research for some cases. I got some stuff with the YouTube partner shopping program that I'm in for the dogs, which I'm going to show those products and do a dog taste test. I was going to do it today, but I didn't get around to it today. Going to try to do it tomorrow, but tomorrow's going to be an insanely busy day because we're going to be out of town for a few days. And tomorrow I've got to get everything. I've got to color my hair. I have to pack. I have to tighten up stuff around both houses. So we have to get stuff so that our animals can be taken care of, all of that stuff. So, yeah. And then I've got people going with us. So it's going to be crazy. But I have to color this hair, definitely. But it's like my daughter and stuff, we always work better under like pressure. It'd never been those people like, oh, here's your term paper. You have 3 months to do it. Just can't even get into it. Or even like people that pack up their house to move like 2 years in advance. I can't do it. It has to be, I know it's a bad thing, but it's probably due to the ADD. Anyway, let's talk about what's going on. So, scary things. When I came back from swimming and everything, and I came and I'm like, oh my gosh, a shooting in Manhattan. Right away, bingo, I'm thinking of my daughter, of course. Okay, that's going to come to mind. My daughter works in Manhattan, and called her immediately. And my daughter's the most low-key, but she's like, yeah, I'm fine. So she didn't really even know that much about what was going on. There was a lot of cross information, but we're going to go over the latest. The latest that I had before this was 6 people were killed, including the lone shooter. There was a video of him walking through Manhattan with his long gun. And, but New Yorkers are like New Yorkers. They're just like kind of just walking by, it's like, okay. And it's like kind of like my daughter, like, well, this happens. I don't know. It's some kind of complacency that we've got now. There was also a shooting in Las Vegas, and was that a mother and a daughter or something like that? Yeah, it's crazy. And then it's the Devil's Den. We're going to talk about that. They still haven't found him, but there is some updates on. My hair is really driving me crazy. There are some updates about how the girls got out of there. Okay, and it wasn't like what they said with it. Okay, so let's look at the latest on the New York City shooting first. Okay. Oh, and then last night we did watch that Trophy Wife. I only made it through 1 3/4 episodes, so I have to finish watching, but it's very good. Okay. All right, so now they're saying 4 people killed. Before they said 6. I don't know. Let's hope it's, we don't want it to be 6. We don't want it to be any, but you know what I mean. So a gunman who had an AR-15 style rifle walked into a midtown Manhattan skyscraper on Monday and began firing. He killed a New York City police officer and fatally shot 3 other people, critically wounding a 5th victim before killing himself. Okay, so 4, 5, 6. Okay. So I don't know whether they're saying that critically. Yeah. The slain officer was identified as Didarul Islam, 36. He was assigned to the Bronx precinct. He had been with the department for 3.5 years. He was working at the building at 345 Park Avenue in a private security role. Mayor Eric Adams announced that at a press conference. I'm trying to see here because okay, the shooter arrived in a BMW, and that car was registered to Shane Tamura, 27 years old, who lives in Nevada. And isn't that weird that there was the shooting? Inside the car, the police found a rifle case with rounds, a loaded revolver, ammunition, and magazines, as well as a backpack and medication prescribed to Tamura. There were no explosives. The car traveled through Colorado on July 26th, through Nebraska on July 27th, and through Columbia, New Jersey as recently as 4 p.m. before arriving in Manhattan. So the commissioner, Tisch, said a black BMW pulled up on the Park Avenue and a man stepped out carrying that rifle, strode towards the building, immediately shot the officer, sprayed the lobby with gunfire, and went to the elevator. A woman came out of the elevator, and the gunman let her walk past him. Then he went up to the 33rd floor, which is the Rudin Management Office, and shot a woman before shooting himself. He shot himself in the chest. And this happened at 6:28 p.m. Multiple 911 calls came in about the shooter inside of that 345 Park Avenue building. And here's the press conference. It was held right there. And let's see, Mayor Eric Adams and Police Commissioner Jessica Tisch. We're going to brief reporters. They were joined by Alvin Bragg, the Manhattan District Attorney, and an array of high-ranking officials from the Police Department, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, and City Hall, as well as a white-coated hospital doctor. Okay, so that Midtown Manhattan skyscraper where the gunman entered, it houses several financial firms and other offices, including those of the investment giant Blackstone and the National Football League. It's a 44-story tower at 345 Park Avenue. The building is also home to the offices of the accounting and financial advisory firm KPMG, the German investment fund Deutsche Bank, the Consulate General of Ireland, and the Rudin Management real estate firm. Hours after the shooting, roadways were closed from East 55th Street to East 48th Street. Emergency personnel from the police department and fire department stood by as a helicopter hovered over the area. Chaos overtook Midtown as the workday came to a close. Someone named Darren Lang, 37 years old, who works at the building 345 Park Avenue, was walking out of the building with a colleague at around 6:30. They were going to get some dinner across the street before they would head back to work in the office. And they said seconds later, shots sounded in quick succession, about 20, one after the other, he said. My coworker was like, "Did you hear that? Did you hear that?" Mr. Lang spun and saw what appeared to be smoke coming from inside the building, and then came the screams. Men and women in business attire burst out of the doors, swarming the block. They sprinted in every direction, crying out as they ran. Okay, and people that were leaving when the shots were fired were coming out with raised hands. They were running and kept yelling, "Active shooter, active shooter." Mr. Lang dashed about 4 blocks south to 49th Street and Lexington Avenue, where he ducked into a restaurant. His dress slacks and white-collared shirt were already soaked with sweat. It was all so fast and at the same time in slow motion, he said. One moment my mind is in a conversation with my colleague, and the next it's trying to process what she's saying and what we are hearing and what I'm seeing. Gunshots, smoke, lights, people, running, screaming. It's there, but it's not registering. Surveillance footage from outside 345 Park Avenue showed the gunman striding towards the building wearing sunglasses, carrying a long gun. The building is owned by Rudin Management, one of New York's oldest and largest real estate firms. It's run by fourth-generation members of the Rudin family. The firm owns office buildings and residential towers totaling about 15 million square feet of space in New York City. The shooter was identified by the police as Shane Devin Tamora, 27, of Las Vegas. He is deceased. And then there were 6 people shot in Las Vegas. The gunman was shot in that one too, but this is Chris. 6 were shot and 3 are dead, I believe, including a gunman shot 6 people near the entrance to a casino in Reno, on Monday morning, leaving 3 dead and 2 others in critical condition. The gunman, who officials did not name, was shot by the police after he opened fire on them and was taken to the hospital in critical condition. The police said at the news conference on Monday, the police said the gunman had no known connection to any of the victims and that the motive for the attack was unclear. The gunfire erupted around 7:25 a.m. in the valet area of the Grand Sierra Resort and Casino. A man armed with a handgun began shooting. His gun briefly malfunctioned before the attack. He also opened fire on a security guard while fleeing. The guard, who was not injured, returned fire at the suspect, who the police said then exchanged gunfire with responding officers. 1 officer received minor injuries from broken glass. 5 of the 6 victims were shot in the casino's valet area by the gunman, who had approached the building from a parking lot. 1 person died at the scene and another died at the hospital. The 3rd person killed was driving through the parking lot when the suspect resumed shooting during his getaway attempt. The Reno Regional Emergency Room, the trauma center in Reno, was treating several patients for gunshot wounds, according to the hospital spokesperson, who said that medical privacy laws prohibited her from releasing details about their conditions. The mayor of Reno, Hillary Sheev, said at a news conference that the loss of life could have been greater had the gunman gotten inside the casino, but that was thwarted by law enforcement and security officers. There was incredible swift action that took place, Ms. Sheev said. She said the attack was weighing heavily on everyone's hearts. Police said on social media there is no threat to the community. A National Guard member, Phil Cordell, who was staying at the resort from Elk Grove, California, said that he was in a meeting on Monday morning when someone told him that there was an active shooter, and I just decided to go to the nearest place, try to get locked, whatever, the bathroom stall. Suzanne Jones, 67, a retired nurse from Sacramento, said she and her daughter, who is also a nurse, were in their rooms at the resort when an announcement was made over a speaker for people to shelter in place. They said to all guests something to the effect of, "You are safe. Just stay indoors, stay indoors." The Grand Sierra Resort, known locally as the GSR, stands as a monolith separated from most of its resort and casino competitors by Interstate 580, US 395 in Reno. Building opened its doors in 1978 as the MGM Grand, a sister hotel to the MGM in Las Vegas, some 440 miles to the south. It would have had more names to come: Bally's, Reno Hilton, and finally the Grand Sierra Resort in 2006. Okay, so that's that. And I want to go to New York because they did say that, I don't know, I think if that 4 others are dead. So they're saying 4 or 5. Well, hopefully that other person makes it because they were announcing it before saying 6. But that's good that they that it wasn't 6, right? It shouldn't be any, but so again, the New York City shooting is a 27-year-old barricaded himself on the 33rd floor after shooting the woman when he went up there, and he's Shane Devin Tamura from Las Vegas. Let me just see real quick something. That doesn't look like that's the person, does it? No. Unfortunate to have same names, right? This is the shooter in New York City, and that's how he was walking. Like that, 27 years old, from Las Vegas. Let's see here. See what we know about him. Trying to make sure that me just see that you guys, that I'm live and everything, because I don't think I went on YouTube and verified it. And let me just do that. Okay, hang on 1 second. Live. Okay, beautiful. Let me just make sure that I'm in here. Okay. All right, here we are. Hi, 61. There was a shooting in Vegas this morning, and then this evening there was a shooting in New York City. Hello, Denise. Hi, Liz Tops. Good to see you. Hi, Christine. You're still hospitalized? I sent you a comment. I said that I hoped you're out. I'm sorry, but I'm glad you're feeling a little better, and I hope that you can get out soon. You're picking up your son? Okay, Captain Lee. Okay, I'm not in live chat, so that's not good for me. Okay. Hi, Vanessa Renda. How are you? Hi, Amy's Justice League. How are you? Haven't seen you in a long time. Well, I saw you a couple weeks ago, I think, right? Okay. So, but few and far between. Hope you're doing well. All right, that's the shooter, and I was trying to see what they knew about him, and they said something, and then it doesn't want to load up here, so let me go. Let's see. All right, I'm just trying to see if they have any more information on what. Let's see, what was he? He acted alone, identified as Shane Devin Tamura, 27, from Las Vegas. He's dead from self-inflicted gunshot wound to the chest. A motive has not been determined. Former high school classmate of Shane said he was filled with promise as an athlete 10 years ago, but didn't seem to fulfill expectations in later years. Caleb Clark said Tamura transferred from a school in Santa Clarita, California, to Granada Hills High School in the city of Los Angeles right before their senior year in 2015 during a hailed run as a fellow football player. He was the biggest goofball in the world, just a ton of energy, class clown, Clark said. Just one of those guys, he's got so much going for him, just figure out the whole school thing and he could be somebody great. Clark indicated they lost touch but reconnected through social media recently as Tamura worked at a casino in Las Vegas. He was surprised his classmate was named as the shooter. You never would have thought violence was something you'd associate with him. Everything he said was a joke. He said, however, that Tamura's fun-loving high school days may have given way to the harsher reality of becoming an adult. The only thing I can really think of is there was a point where it looked like the sky was the limit, and then it wasn't anymore. Tamura may have been destined for greatness as an athlete, but greatness never came. Joining the NFL as a pro seemed possible. I don't think he walked around to be like, oh, I'll have NFL games one day. I think it was more of everybody just telling him how great he was. He was the fastest kid I'd ever met. Full hands down. And then after high school, didn't see from him that much and didn't hear from him that much because he wasn't on the field. And this is the officer that was killed today. was assigned to the 47th Precinct in the Bronx. He'd been there for 3.5 years. He was doing what he does best, and all members of the police department carry out. Eric Adams said he was saving lives. He was protecting New Yorkers. He was married and has 2 young boys, and his wife is pregnant with a 3rd child. He put himself in harm's way. He made the ultimate sacrifice, shot in cold blood, wearing a uniform that stood for the promise that he made to this city, Tish said, calling him a hero. Okay, so it said the shooter drove across the country in recent days, arriving in New York City today. Tamura has a documented history of mental health issues. It says our partners in Las Vegas made us aware of a mental health history. It's not clear why he went to the high-rise and then went up to the 33rd floor office of the real estate management firm Rudin Management. Gunman shot a security guard at the elevator bank as the guard was taking cover behind a security desk. The shooter called the elevator to the lobby. A woman got out. The gunman allowed her to exit unharmed. The shooter went up to the 33rd floor, begins to walk in the floor, firing rounds as he traveled. One person was shot and killed on that floor. He then proceeded down a hallway and shoots himself in the chest. Okay, another witness was eating dinner in the plaza near Park Avenue building when she heard gunshots ring out, saw glass shattering from the building. Shortly after, she saw someone running from the high-rise, calling for help. She said she noticed that person was wounded, and she and her partner attempted to help get him to safety. She called the shooting the scariest situation she's ever been in. There was so much rapid fire and so many people fleeing. She praised authorities for their quick response and work to move people to safety, but likened the scene to a war zone. Okay, just trying to see if there's anything else. So I don't know, let me see, I would like to change that to 5 if I don't want to, I'd rather have, let me see, change that to that, right? Okay. And just go to, let's do this. I'm just going to put 5 in there, and we'll see. Hopefully, there'll be nobody else. Okay. You're better when you got up today. I woke up and I couldn't move. You took meds. Oh, you're not feeling well, Captain Lee fan? Okay. Now let me make sure that. Okay. Now I'm going to go to Devil's Den. Okay. So we're going to talk about the Devil's Den now. Okay. So they still haven't found the person, okay? This is the Devil's Den State Park in Arkansas. There's still police in Arkansas are searching for a killer on Monday after a married couple were killed while on a hike in a remote part of Devil's Den State Park over the weekend. Authorities identified those victims as Clinton David Brink, 43 years old, and Cristin Amanda Brink, 41 years old. They said they recently moved to Prairie Grove, Arkansas. From what I saw online is that they might have lived in Montana and California prior to that. The couple were hiking on Saturday with their two daughters, 7 and 9, at the park in northwest Arkansas when they were attacked, according to the Arkansas State Police. The police did not give further details on how the couple died. The Brink's daughters, 7 and 9, were not injured and were safe with family members. Now, there are stories circulating, okay, but the police are not saying much about it. Around 2:40 p.m. Central Time on Saturday, the police received reports of a double homicide at the park. The statement said officers found the couple's bodies on a walking trail. On Sunday, the police issued a statement asking local residents and park visitors for help in their search for the killer, requesting any cell phone videos, photos, security footage, or other materials from the day of the murders. Police described the killer as a white man. They say he has a medium build. They're wearing dark pants, a dark baseball cap, and sunglasses, as well as a black backpack and fingerless gloves. They originally said he had a tank top. Now they're saying he's wearing a long-sleeve shirt with his sleeves rolled up. A composite sketch released Monday evening showed a man with dark eyes, stubble, and thin lips. The man was seen driving towards a park exit in a black vehicle, which might be a Mazda, with a license plate that was covered by electrical or duct tape. Mr. and Mrs. Brink were in a part of the park where the terrain is rugged, vegetation is thick, and there's no cell phone service when they were killed. Before moving to Arkansas, the couple lived in Miles City, Montana. They were married in 2014. In 2022, Mrs. Brink graduated from Miles Community College with an associate degree in nursing. Couple's family released a statement on Monday evening requesting privacy and asking anyone with information to contact the authorities immediately, saying Clinton and Cristin died heroes protecting their little girls, and they deserve justice. They will forever live on in all of our hearts. Shay Lewis, Secretary of the Arkansas Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism, gave a statement that said there would be more park rangers surveilling the park. Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders of Arkansas said she was in close contact with the authorities while they were trying to catch the killer. Said, "We are praying for the family and friends of the victims and know that law enforcement will not rest until the perpetrator is brought to justice." Okay, but let's see what else we can find out. Okay, this is the sketch that they released. They released that on Monday night. It's the man they want to question in relation to the murder of a couple that was attacked and killed while hiking with their two young daughters. Arkansas State Police called the man a person of interest, and they asked the public for help identifying him. They say the suspect likely sustained an injury while attacking the couple, but they're not going to elaborate. They also didn't say how the couple was killed, but noted that their deaths are being investigated as a double homicide. Washington County received a call from the visitor center. Some said police radio audio captured by Broadcastify. 2 children are there. They advised that their parents were assaulted. 1 was possibly stabbed. The parents are missing. Daughters ages 7 and 9 were unharmed. Now with family members. The Brinks had recently moved from another state, Montana, to the Prairie Grove, a small town in northwest Arkansas near the Oklahoma border. I believe they were there to, how about with his mother? Their family released a statement, and I read that to you. The 2,500-acre Devil's Den State Park is known for its rugged, natural scenery filled with waterfalls, caves, and rock formations. The murders happened in an area of the park with thick vegetation and no cell phone service. Audio from the first responders indicates the couple's bodies were found on the Devil's Den Trail, which is a 1.5-mile loop with moderate difficulty. All trails are closed until further notice, according to the park website. When searching the trail, first responders could hear yells for help. It's not clear who was yelling. I hear yells calling for help. We're walking down, a first responder can be heard saying. It's also unclear how long it took for the authorities to locate the bodies of the couple. Trying to relate to the office that we found the victims down here, a first responder said, they're on the lower Devil's Den Trail. I think I see you right there. I've got 2 bodies down here. Police earlier described the suspect as a medium-build white male, last seen wearing a shirt with rolled-up long sleeves, dark pants, and a dark ball cap, fingerless gloves, and sunglasses, and carrying a black backpack. I'm driving that Mazda. Investigators have received numerous calls from the public with possible tips. Officials warned against sharing any footage on social media, cautioning that doing so may inadvertently jeopardize the investigation. Go straight to the police with it. Arkansas Governor Sarah Huckabee Sanders called the killings horrific and said the state is in close contact with the state police and the Department of Parks, Heritage, and Tourism as they work to apprehend the suspect. They still haven't found him. Let's see now, where are you guys? Live streaming over here. Okay, so these poor girls. Yeah, I know, right? It's crazy. Hold on just 1 second. Trying to get in. Okay. All right, let's see. So then next, we're going to talk about James Craig, the dentist, on trial for the murder of his wife for poisoning her protein shakes. And the prosecution rested today. The defense rested without calling any witnesses. Closing arguments are tomorrow. Now, I don't know if they're going to let us see the closing arguments. They said they were going to let us see the opening arguments. They were terrible. The sound was terrible, and it seems like we got clips of them. So, it'll be interesting. Now, hang on one little second here. I had all my stuff ready to go. I somehow ended up on 2 different screens. Why? I don't know. Okay, I'm just trying to close down some windows and I'm trying to find you guys again. Okay. Oh, I put you on the other one. All right. Let's just do this, James Craig. This is trial day 10, okay? Alrighty. Okay. So they had Bobby Olson. She was the lead detective. She was the one that allegedly James Craig tried to... Let me get his picture up here so we know. Tried to have killed from jail. amongst all the other things he was doing, right? Okay. Bobby Olson, lead detective, testified Monday that James Craig wrote a lengthy iPhone note before law enforcement seized his phone to allegedly portray himself in a different light as the investigators worked to pin down the cause of Angela Craig's death. James Craig, again, in case you're just joining us and you haven't heard of this case, he's on trial for 1 count of first-degree murder and 2 counts of solicitation to commit tampering with physical evidence and 2 counts of solicitation to commit perjury in the first degree and 1 count of solicitation to commit first-degree murder. 5 of the charges were added to his case during his jail time. He's accused of killing his wife, Angela Craig, 43, by poisoning her workout smoothies in part. Her cause of death was determined to be lethal doses of cyanide and tetrahydrozoline. That's a decongestant that's found in the over-the-counter eye drops like Visine. She suffered through several bouts of sickness. She went to the hospital before she became brain dead and then passed, and doctors struggled to determine why she was ill. Prosecutors are arguing that James Craig also poisoned his wife through a medication intended to treat a sinus infection, and they claim that he administered a lethal dose of cyanide to Angela while she was hospitalized on March 15th. He was arrested on March 19th of 2023, and his trial began on July 15th. So there's more testimony that began with Bobby Olson. She testified and started her testimony discussing the 4-page iPhone note that James Craig allegedly wrote before investigators seized his cell phone. The note is the first written statement by the suspect presented to investigators about what supposedly happened to Angela Craig before her death. Prosecutor Michael Morrow presented more portions of the note, including one section where James Craig talks about cyanide capsules and a syringe, saying, and I quote, "She told me she intended to drink eye drops again and then do the cyanide. She asked me to put it into a capsule. I got her a clindamycin prescription, and I filled it with 200 milligrams each of potassium cyanide. She asked me to do something like a dozen capsules." This guy reminds me of Anthony Tote when he tried to implicate his wife that she had killed all the children, and then remember all that. But yeah, he's close to that guy. They should maybe share a cell. The note also states that James Craig reserved 4 capsules that I knew were not tainted, and I used those as her first 2 doses of clindamycin. Morrow asked Bobby Olson if law enforcement was aware of the timeline note as investigators searched the Craig's home. Olson replied they were not, adding that they didn't even know what they were looking for clindamycin, an antibiotic. She said investigators tried to go collect the clindamycin about a week later, but it was no longer at the home. In the 4-page note, James Craig admitted to preparing a syringe with cyanide in addition to writing that the clindamycin capsules Angela Craig's brother gave her must have been the ones with the cyanide in them. Mark Prey, Angela's brother, testified that he gave his sister the clindamycin on March 15th at the request of James Craig. Another portion of the note details his time at the ER. In the ER, it looked like she was probably going to pull through and be okay, he wrote. In that moment, when no one else was in earshot, she asked me to help finish the job. Morrow then told the court that prior to Mark Prey, Angela Craig's brother, leaving her alone with James Craig, there was no time when it appears the suspect was alone in the room with his wife. He said it was safe to assume it was when Mark left that James Craig administered another dose of cyanide to Angela Craig. The note continues, "Next thing I knew, she was saying her arm hurt. I grabbed the syringe and put it in my pocket." The note then goes on, "Well, I did prepare all of the concoctions for her. I did not administer any of them to her. I did not check her into taking them or force her to eat anything. In other writings, he claims his wife miscalculated how much of a different toxin she consumed. The writings conflict with what previously described as the circumstances surrounding her death in a letter written from jail to one of their children. The letter, allegedly written by James Craig, admitted that he was the one who actually ordered the substances. The daughter also testified that the letter said it was unlikely that Angela would have killed herself on purpose intentionally. Morrow then asked Bobby Olson if there is anything in the iPhone note about a game of chicken, which she said there was not. Previous testimony from close friends and family revealed that James Craig told them he was playing a game of chicken with his wife when he ordered the toxins. Prosecutor argued before the court that there are many contradictions between the letters that James Craig allegedly wrote and the 4-page note found on his phone before it was handed over to investigators. Bobby Olson testified that after she seized James's phone on March 16, 2023, he communicated with the lead detective from another device. During cross-examination, defense attorney Lisa Moses questioned Olson about the case, including the arrest affidavit that became highly publicized in news media. Details that in other kinds of cases didn't get put out there, referencing how this case differed from others. I would say that's accurate, Olson responded. Moses then touched on a journal belonging to Angela Craig, which was found in a storage unit and later sent to law enforcement by Angela Craig's sister, Toni Kofod. The entries presented in court on Monday date as far back as 2009. So here's some portions of it, okay? January 8th, 2009. I feel so lost and so alone. The farther into this process we get, the less able I feel I can forgive. I looked at Jim today, and I couldn't feel any love. All of the things I loved about him, about us, were a lie. Where do I find myself? Where and how do I find my marriage again? My mom says I look too thin and is nagging me to eat, but I can't. All I've ever wanted was for people to like me, to love me. January 13th, 2009. I'm finding ways to be positive every day. Satan cannot have me. He will not destroy me with hopelessness and self-doubt. How could he do this to me if he really loves me? He doesn't think I'm good enough. He'd rather be with someone else. January 20th, 2009. I feel really sad today. I don't feel just sad. I feel depressed. I feel a huge sense of loss with no hope. I feel like the good times were a lie. I feel so betrayed. The good times were a lie. He was a lie. We now have a long road in front of us because of choices he's made. My sense of security is gone. I don't feel safe. In another journal entry, in which no date was given, she wrote, I failed him. He doesn't know how great he is. He doesn't love me, and I don't blame him. I don't accept responsibility for my part. I get too defensive. In February of 2018, Angela wrote in her journal, last night was so hard. Jim has been having an affair for 6 months. I know he won't admit it, and I'm not sure he recognizes it. Angela Craig's journal also provides some insight into addiction treatment James Craig was reportedly seeking in 2018 and about her struggles with their marriage even after she sought weekly therapy. In one journal entry, Angela writes, it almost killed me when he said he didn't love me, and I wasn't enough. All I want to do when that happens is crawl into bed and cry myself to sleep. I haven't figured out yet if I should give in or push things. She wrote that in April 2018. Defense attorney Moses then showed Olson a text James Craig sent to his former business partner Ryan Redfern, and where he confronted James Craig about the package of cyanide that was delivered to the dental office the night before the message was sent. The text, which was quite long, reads in part, I want to make an urgent plea to you. If we were ever friends, please do this favor for me. Please don't talk to anybody about what we talked about last night, including law enforcement. You will do more damage than good. Angela is gone, and I am devastated. There is nothing that can bring her back, and I want desperately to tell you all the details. There is so much that you don't know that I wish you did. If you knew anything, it would make so much sense to you. Then Moses questioned Bobby Olson whether there are glimmers of truth in the text, like the fact cops were at the home, the family was starting to come into town, and that no one could stay at the home, which Olson said was the case. The point, it appears, was that there was truth within the text message. Olson then confirmed Moses' questioning that James Craig was not aware that Olson was seizing his phone and his wife's phone on March 16th, but he still handed over both of the phones in addition to their correct passcodes, alluding that the suspect did not have to be so cooperative. Moses moved on to the phone of the pink lip blender bottle on the side table of Angela Craig's bed. The bottle was tested and showed traces of tetrahydrozoline in it. The medication in the eye drops, that can be deadly if ingested orally. The defense attorney noted that James Craig came home on March 15th around midday, and the pill bottle, the clindamycin, was still on the nightstand along with the blender bottle, showing that they were not cleaned up or hidden by James Craig. Attorney then presented several photos from inside the house to show all the things that investigators didn't collect as evidence, including photos of the clindamycin medication. On the second search of the home, when investigators were looking for the clindamycin, they found a bottle from 2019. Olson testified that the prescription was from 2023, never identified. Olson testified that upon seizing James Craig's work laptop, the following internet searches were found, dated March 9, 2023. What does it mean when the systolic and diastolic are close together? How to raise blood pressure. Is low blood pressure dangerous? What to know about low blood pressure? 3 days prior, on March 6, James Craig had reportedly searched for 9 causes of dizziness and blurred vision and eyes moving slow, lethargic, weak symptoms. Moses says during this time period, Angela Craig was experiencing symptoms consistent with having low pressure, and Bobby Olson agreed. Okay, then there's going to be, hold on, I just want to make sure that, I want to see that you guys are still, that we're still alive, because you know how I have had problems with, and I have to go over here. I just want to make sure, okay? Okay, let me just get in here so I can see. Okay, so let's see. Hello, Frilly. Hi, video. Hello, Denise. Hi, 61. Okay, let's finish this. It is Frilly. I don't know how people can be so cruel. What happened? You're talking about this stuff here. This is so sad. Yeah. Okay. Let's keep going on with this trial. Okay, so the cross-examination of Bobby Olson continued after lunch. So the defense attorney recalled that Bobby Olson and her team went to Summerbrook Dental Group for another search, not the initial search, after a letter written by James Craig was intercepted. The letter reportedly stated that something was hiding up in the tiles of the office, but nothing was ultimately found. So the attorney said, so the letter was not truthful? And she said, we didn't find anything. He was hinting that other letters presented during the trial would be misleading as well. He questioned her about James Craig's lack of aggression towards law enforcement when he and his family were not allowed to go back into the home, and how he cooperated with law enforcement during the initial stages of the investigation, alluding that a suspect would not have reacted the way James Craig did. Really? The defense then asked Olson why police did not look through the Sharps disposal containers at the hospital in search of the syringe mentioned earlier in the day. Bobby Olson said that they didn't search those containers because of biohazard concerns, and that their lab would not accept them. The attorney then noted that on all the days of recorded conversations captured on surveillance camera video from inside the home that were submitted as evidence, there were large chunks of the video that are missing. The jury was then shown still images of some of that video where James Craig and Angela Craig appear to be lovey with each other. The last one, presented by the defense from March 7, 2023, shows the Craigs sitting together on the couch with a computer in front of them. Bobby Olson testified that she does not know if the computer seen in the picture was collected as evidence. The attorney points out that the Craigs have equal life insurance policies and that their mortgage was paid off on their home, which was worth roughly $1 million. They then asked Bobby Olson to check to ensure the hospital where the blood samples from Angela were stored were properly refrigerated, but Olson replied she never checked to see if that was the case. In the redirect examination, the prosecutor, Morrow, questioned Bobby Olson about why they didn't search any other electronic evidence inside the home. She replied law enforcement had no evidence suggesting they should search the other devices in the home. She added that the surveillance video collected in March of 2023 had thousands of hours of video that took months to go through. She also testified that the still photographs depicting a loving couple were captured both before and after James Craig's trip to Las Vegas, where he met Dr. Karen Kane and had another extramarital affair. Then the prosecutor turned to Angela's journal. Based on your review of Angela Craig's journal, were there blank pages at the end of it? Yes, Bobby Olson said, after previously testifying that there were no entries beyond 2018. Defense attorneys tried to infuse doubt into the journal by mentioning those empty pages at the end, implying it could have been altered by Angela Craig's family. Based on your review of the contents of that journal, is there ever a single mention of taking her own life? Prosecutors asked. Olson said there was not a single mention of that in Angela Craig's journal. Prosecutors then rested their case, followed by defense attorneys who did not call any witnesses. Prosecutors called almost 50 witnesses to the stand during the trial. Closing arguments will begin tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Again, I don't know if they're going to let us see the let's see if they're going to. Let's see. I don't know. That was the plan originally. Okay, let me see where you guys are over here. So, let's see. Hi, Voices. How are you? How's it going? Oh, I'm in top chat. Why am I in top chat? If I missed anybody, I'm sorry. For some reason, it's given me top chat. So that those are the 1, 2, 3. We actually did 4. Did another one. Let's see if there's anything else before we Okay, we've got that mass shooting still. MTA. Da, 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 da. Okay. Tropical storm Kelly forms in a second cyclone now in Central Pacific Ocean. An Army ROTC cadet from New Jersey dies during training at Fort Knox. Chimp lady. Sealed metal bottle found underwater after years. Interesting. Okay. Small plane crashes in Palm Beach, sending 7 people to the hospital. Two children killed at Miami sailing camp when a barge hit their boat. Oh my gosh. Ouch. Oh, let's check if Moscow PD released anything. Let me see. Let's see. Let's take a little check. Not yet. Okay, now I'm going to come back to the chat. Okay. Was it heat related? It's so hot here. In Fort Knox? Let me see. Let's see. Okay, so 22-year-old Army ROTC cadet died during training at Fort Knox, Kentucky last week. Cadet Neil Adara died after becoming unresponsive during land navigation training July 24th. And that's from the U.S. Army Cadet Command. Adara was at Fort Knox for ROTC cadet summer training. The Cadet Summer Training Program is a multi-week course held at Fort Knox covering basic combat skills, land navigation, and small unit exercises. Adara was given medical treatment on the scene after being found unresponsive, and then he was transported via helicopter to the University of Louisville. Medical officials pronounced him dead at the hospital. The cause of death is still under investigation. Training did not pause following Adara's death, but the command and spiritual counseling and religious affairs support is available for cadets who need it. Adara is from Ridgewood, New Jersey. Oh, that's right where I'm from. Was a student at Rutgers University. He joined the ROTC in 2021 and was scheduled to graduate in 2026. Cadet Adara was one of the most dedicated and promising young leaders I've had the privilege to know, said Lieutenant Colonel Timothy Sorensen, a professor of military science at Rutgers University. he said in Army Cadet Command statement. His calm, collected demeanor and his unwavering commitment to excellence left a lasting impact on everyone around him. His loss is deeply felt across the entire ROTC and Rutgers community. Our thoughts and prayers are with his family and loved ones during this incredibly difficult time. So, yeah, it doesn't really say. Okay, video reel. There we are. I don't know. I don't know if it wasn't heart related. Right now, let's play this game. This one is easy. I don't know if is this our daily? I don't think this is our daily. Okay, we'll do the daily right after this one. Okay. We do and do Doug, dig. Did we do Doug and dig? Yes. Doug and dig. Yeah, I know what you meant. Ow. I know what you meant. Okay, one more here. I already did that. What do we have here? One more. That'd be. All right, well, well, maybe Murder Crows will come in. I don't think we did the daily. I think we ended up not doing the daily. We did a regular puzzle, so we got to do the daily. We got to do the daily. Oh my goodness. Stop. Wait a minute. Thought that had to be there. Hi, Dark. How are you? I think you're, oh, is that the one for my other one? Okay. I'll go back and do that one as soon as we do this one. Yeah, okay, I'll go back and fix that. Okay. One more over here, let's see. B, D, or C? Let's see if it was D, E. It's not Demi, right? It's not Jelly. It's not. So let's try if it's bled. It's got to be bled. Okay. And let me go back to that other one that Dark said. Oh, I don't like that there's 2 days left in July. I don't like that. The summer. Stop it. Okay, so you say. There we go. We got it. Joey Walnut. What was that noise? That was like a buzzer in the back of my computer. What is that about? I don't know what that is about. Never heard that in my life. That's scary. Hope everything's all right with my computer. Okay. Where's Murder of Crows? Is it too early? Are we on too early for Murder of Crows? Where's Heart Made Wise? Where's Jeanette? Jeanette, where are you? Where is Jeanette? All right, let's do something else. Let's do something else. Let's see what we're going to do. We're going to do something else. Oh my goodness. Oh, you know what I wanted to look about? That lady that was missing from North Carolina and that she was found in Colorado. What was the deal with that? I was talking to Sandy about that today, and then I said, you know what? I'm going to look that up. Let's take a look at what that was about. That's not like a Shirley Papini, is it? Okay, so let me get a picture of her. Held on. 33-year-old Kelsey Pittman. Okay, this is her. Make this a little larger. Right there. Okay, now. So it says Kelsey Pittman was found alive in Colorado after she was reported missing in November of 2024 from North Carolina. Her car was abandoned off the grid in the California desert. Now, this is not that woman that was going to that wedding on the East Coast. Remember that case? I don't think they ever found her either. On Tuesday, July 22nd, the Inyo County Sheriff's Office in Bishop, California, confirmed in a press release that North Carolina resident Kelsey Pittman had been located in Colorado after she was first reported missing in 2024 of November. The Inyo County Sheriff's Office is relieved to announce that Kelsey Pittman has been located alive in the state of Colorado. This comes after Pittman's vehicle was discovered February 9th, 2025, near the Pads or Slab City, according to the police. The area refers to an off-the-grid community in the California desert south of Joshua Tree National Park. And the Smithsonian Magazine refers to it as a squatter's paradise. At the time, authorities were able to confirm the car was Pittman's 2007 Chevrolet HHR. A thorough search of both the vehicle and the surrounding area revealed no sign of Pittman. Police then began an extensive missing person investigation, searching between February and June. Authorities said that they coordinated effort between multiple law enforcement agencies, drone teams, cadaver dogs, handlers, and volunteers, search and rescue crews. They executed exhaustive ground and aerial searches but found no additional physical evidence. Police did not give any information on Pittman's condition. Out of respect for her privacy and that of her family, no further details will be released. We want to thank ICSO investigative team along with the many law enforcement partners, search and rescue volunteers, and community members who assisted in this case. So I don't know exactly what's up with that. Okay. Let me see if there's anything. Okay, here's something. Let me see this now about Kaylee Gonzalez's sister. Hold on. She said that she said she had one shot at it and she was going to make the most of it about that powerful victim's impact statement that she gave in court last week. Olivia Gonsalves opened up about that impact statement. She said, "You want the truth?" This is to Brian. "Here's the one you'll hate the most. If you hadn't attacked them in their sleep in the middle of the night, like a pedophile, Kaylee would have kicked your effing arse," she told him. So then she had an interview on July 28th with Good Morning America, and she confessed that she was concerned at one point that she might get in trouble for what she had to say. She was prepared to be arrested that day. She said, adding that, "I think every single one of us were." She added that she was fueled by the rage on his face as she spoke to him. Man, was he mad. There was obviously a big point of why I did what I did, to make him feel small, because he is. It actually makes me really emotional. I got up there knowing that my speech wasn't to Kaylee and Maddie, it was for them. Olivia memorized her statement so that she could deliver it while maintaining eye contact with Kohberger. I had one shot at it. I was going to make the most of it. She said that she did a lot of work in advance to prepare something to say, and that entailed doing research on Kohberger. I mean, I stalked the stalker. I found everything that I could online from the beginning of time until now. It fueled me to know that I got you pegged. Before she was killed, Kaylee told multiple people about incidents of someone watching her. Dylan Mortensen, who survived the attack and also delivered a victim's impact statement, told the Moscow Police Department shortly after the murders that Kaylee told her an individual was following her weeks before she died, while she had also mentioned seeing a shadow while she was out walking her dog Murphy a month before. During her speech, Olivia took direct aim at Bryan Kohberger while remembering her sister Kaylee's best friend, Maddie. They were everything that you could never be. Loved, accepted, vibrant, accomplished, brave, and powerful, she said. Describing him as painfully average. You aren't profound, you're pathetic, she said. She said, I'm not intimidated by him. Truly, I'm not. There's a primal sense of alarm, like my body was telling me, run, get out. This is a threat, she shared. Okay, so that is that. Let's see where you guys are. Oh, in here, this one. Okay. Act like you care on W. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. Okay. Let's see what else we have. Okay, I'm not seeing anything there. I'm just trying to see if there's anything else to discuss. Let me see here. Oh, wow. Look at this. There was a mass shooting in Turks and Caicos. They said 3 killed, 10 injured in Turks and Caicos Island's first mass shooting, unlike anything we have ever seen. What is going on? Let's see. What is happening here is unlike anything we've ever seen before. Premier Charles Washington Missick said, this is not a situation we should accept. 3 people were killed. 10 others were injured at a popular nightclub in the Turks and Caicos Islands in what authorities are calling the island's first mass shooting. 4 suspects were involved in the shooting on Sunday. Police Commissioner Fitz Bailey told the AP. Bailey said the shooting is deeply disturbing and there's been no arrests made yet. We are now having a gangland type slaying, and a lot of this gang violence seems to be concentrated in our Haitian communities. He encouraged the Haitian community to work with police to understand how guns are being smuggled into Turks and Caicos Islands. What is happening here is unlike anything we've ever seen before. This is not a situation we should accept. He said that the shooting injuries ranged from minor to serious and that 9 of the people injured had gunshot wounds, per the acting governor, Anya Williams. The hospital in Providenciales was on lockdown to protect the shooting victims, while 2 of them were flown overseas for further treatment. A $10,000 reward is being offered to those with information that leads to the capture of the suspects involved. They have yet to determine a motive. The shooting comes at a time when the islands are cracking down on illegal immigration. An estimated 10,900 Haitians live in Turks and Caicos, which represent a third of the population. Around 80% of the Haitians who live there, 20% of whom have permanent residency. Couple. Let me see here. Jody Hildebrandt. Why is she back in the news? What is this about? And then there was a mass shooting at a busy food market in Thailand Monday as well. At least 5 people have died. 2 others have been hospitalized. What is going on? The suspect shooter was found dead on a bench a short time later. He was found dressed in a black t-shirt and camouflage shorts. The suspected shooter was 61. Police are investigating the motives. So far, it's a mass shooting. Happened at a market in Bangkok, Thailand on Monday. Crazy, all those mass shootings all at the same time. Okay. Let's see if we have any. Rapper Mac Main says his son Zeke died after a seizure. You'll always be my prince. Okay, let's see. All right. I'm not saying too much there. Let me check something else. Okay. Tulane basketball star Greg Glenn III dies in a tragic accident at 22. One killed, 1 hospitalized following a plane crash in South Dakota. A roof collapse kills a man at a Family Dollar store. An Orlando man found a newborn in front of his door. The baby was alive, I hope. Let's see. We did the Nevada coast. We did that. $2,000 arsenic. What? Trying to get something. Tropical storm. Let's see what Tropical Storm Kelly's like. See, 2 tropical cyclones. Let's see. We're swirling across the ocean southeast of Hawaii after developing on Monday, but we're not expected to cause any issues for the islands. Hurricane Iona. Isn't Iona the mother's name in Beaches of Bette Midler's character? Iona is the first named storm of the hurricane season. It is in the Central Pacific, and it emerged Sunday from a tropical depression to become a Category 1 hurricane in roughly a day. It was trekking west over warm, open waters. It's pretty high confidence that it's not going to have any direct impacts on the islands. The hurricane is centered well south of Hawaii, and is an indirect impact will be downward pressure winds from the hurricane. There is an upward motion in the hurricane, and then there's usually compensating downward motion. This should be the case here, so it will be dry, it will be breezy. Those were the conditions that were prevalent when Hurricane Dora also passed well south of the islands in August of 2023. That said, pressure gradient, Dora, I was talking about, but a second weather system also formed. Tropical Storm Kelly had a maximum sustained wind of 40 miles per hour. It was about 1,030 miles southeast of Honolulu and was moving west at about 12 miles per hour. It may strengthen over the next day, but like Iona, it should lose power around the middle of the week. Okay. So that's good. That doesn't seem to be bad. Okay, so here's some more about that shooting in New York City. Okay, here's another update about this. If you're just joining us this evening, mass shooting in Manhattan. 27-year-old man from Las Vegas, Shane Tamura, is suspected to have driven across the country in the recent days, arriving in New York City just hours before the fatal event. And this now is the Las Vegas home of the man who shot and killed 4 individuals in Manhattan. Las Vegas Metropolitan Police officers are stationed outside the upscale gated community where the shooter, Shane Tamura, resided with his parents in a 3-bedroom house. Okay. Inside Tamura's BMW, investigators discovered prescription medication, a rifle case, ammunition magazine, and a loaded revolver. Let's see. A local reporter revealed that Tamura had only one arrest record in his home state, a trespassing charge that was subsequently dismissed by prosecutors. yeah, that's, let me see if there's any other new stuff. Yeah, I don't know. He was just walking and they're driving across the country. What the heck was he doing, right? What kind of motive did he have to do that and where he did it? Okay. All right, hold on a minute. I'm gonna have to open. I want to open the door, and I want to get. I think I want to get a drink. Oh no, I don't know if I want to get a drink. I just want to open this door. It's only very hot. Yeah, that's nice. And I've got to put my mint. Hold on a minute. I brought some mint home, and I've got to put it in a something over here. So just hang on 1 second. Oh, it's pretty good. I could do that tomorrow. I've got it in water. It's doing good. All right. Let me see. I wanted to get a. Okay. Okay. Let me go to something else right now. Okay, so let me see something. Oh, I know what we can do. Hold on a minute, you guys. Is anybody interested in the trial transcripts from the Delphi trial? I have them. See, I forgot with the Koberger stuff. I probably should put them in their own video, but I could separate them out. Let me go into my files here. Okay. Where did I put you? These are the Kobergers. Oh, let me get my glasses. MPD reports, and where's supplements? Those were there. Where are my? They're probably right over here. Chandler Harrison, Richard Allen. Here we are. Okay. So I think this is the first document. Let's see. Okay, here's the transcript. This one. Let's see what we have here. Well, I think we want to start at the trial, and I'll put up a graphic. I think they said it starts. These are the juror questionnaires. hold on a minute. Let me get his. See which one we want to do here. Put that there so we know we're on Delphi. And let me go to the other transcript because this looks like this is. I knew exactly which one. I think it was. Okay. All right, so let me go back to that other one because it looks like it probably starts towards the end with the grandmother. Let me go all the way to the end. Okay. Okay, so it says, are these their opening statements? Let me just see something. Okay, so I think first then for opening statements, Mr. McLeland. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. McLeland says, good morning. We're having a little bit of a technical difficulty. I was hoping to show you a video, but it's not going to work out. A few short days ago, I told you this case was about a bridge guy, or about bridge guy, a bullet, and the brutal murder of 2 young girls. Hold on, I've got to make this a little bigger for me to read this here. My eyes are really sticking together now. Okay. Now it is time for you to hear the rest of the story. How Richard Allen murdered Abby and Libby. I want to take you back to February 13th of 2017, a day when everything changed for Abby and Libby. As we told you before, it was unseasonably warm that day in Carroll County. It was a nice summer day in the middle of winter, hint of spring, which was just around the corner. On top of that, Abby and Libby had a day off of school, so they decided to go out to the trails, specifically to the Manhunt Bridge, to be outside, enjoy nature, enjoy the weather, enjoy their day off of school. Now, I told you before, the trails are a trail system in Delphi. There are trails that wind through the city. They go through various wooded areas, and they go along and across streams and rivers, creeks. The Manhunt Bridge is an abandoned train trestle. It is 60 feet above the Deer Creek. So the girls headed out to the trails. They asked Kelsey German to go with them. She wasn't able to. However, she was able to give them a ride. On the way to the trails, Libby snapped pictures of her and Abby in the back seat of Kelsey's car, laughing, joking. Kelsey dropped the 2 girls off at the entrance of the trails, what is known as the Mears entrance. Hold on, I want to put up a different picture for you here. Okay. They entered into the trails through the entrance, and they headed towards the Manhunt Bridge. I want to tell you a little bit about Abby and Libby. First of all, from hearing me in court and hearing me speak, you know they commonly go by Abby and Libby, what they're commonly referred to. They were best friends. They were always together. They were more like sisters than friends. To put it into perspective, out of the two of them, only Libby had a phone, but Libby had Abby's fingerprint put in her phone so that Abby could use it anytime she wanted. They both were also students at Delphi Middle School, so they hung out together. They went to school together. They did everything together. They were best friends. As they went down the trail, Libby was on her phone, like most teenagers. She was talking to friends, texting family. She was on Snapchat. She was able to look at pictures from other friends, posting her own pictures. And I know everyone knows what Snapchat is, but it's an app that you have on your phone where you take a picture and you can post it online. The picture's up for a period of time and then it disappears. It's a pretty popular app for the kids in this community. She did that as Abby and her walked down the trail towards the Manhunt Bridge. I want to tell you a little bit about the bridge. Now, I hoped the video was going to show the bridge, and maybe I'll be able to show you a video of it later. But it's a very high bridge. It's a very old bridge. And it's a very long bridge. And once you're on the bridge, there's nowhere to go. There's no rails. There's only a few platforms in certain places. If you had to escape and you were on the bridge, you'd have nowhere to go but to jump off. The railroad ties that hold the bridge together are falling apart. Some are broken, some are loose. Heck, even some of them are missing altogether. It's scary to cross it, and it's flat out dangerous. But again, as I told you a few days ago, middle school and high school kids in our community love to cross the bridge, mostly just to say they did it. I even did it when I was in high school. As they cross the bridge, Libby continues to use her phone, continues to take pictures and post them on Snapchat, takes a picture of Abby, posts it on Snapchat. As they crossed the bridge, Libby went first and Abby followed. As Libby got to the end of the bridge, she waited for Abby. Libby continued to play on her phone, but as she got to the end, she looked back and she noticed a man was following Abby. And something inside Libby told her that she needed to get her phone out and film the man following Abby. 2:13 p.m. is when she did that. The man follows Abby off the bridge to where Libby is standing. He then pulls out a gun and orders both of the girls down the hill. Those chilling words, girls, down the hill. They complied against their will, and as this happens, the video on Abby's phone cuts off, or Libby's phone cuts off. Imagine, 13 and 14 years old, you're with your best friend, the weather's beautiful, you're off of school, you decide to have some fun, you go to the trails, you cross the bridge, a local challenge in our community. While you're doing that, you're laughing, you're joking, you're posting pictures on Snapchat, but as you end the bridge, you notice a man following you. You get that chill, that feeling that you have when something isn't right. You pull out your phone and you took the video, the man, and as you do, your friend runs to your aid. The man approaches, pulls a gun, and orders you and your friend down the hill. Imagine the fear you would have, a gun pointed at you, being ordered down the hill against your will. Out of fear, the girls complied. They complied with his orders, not knowing what he wanted or what he was going to do to them, completely powerless. He had the power and the fear and forced them down the hill. Later that day, Derek German arrives at the trail to pick up the girls, but the girls are nowhere to be found. He calls other family members to assist, but no one can locate the girls. The police are called, and a search is started. The search ensues for the girls until 2 a.m. on February 14th, and then it picks up again later that morning at 6 a.m. As the search progressed through the day, the girls were ultimately found. Both were dead, 13 and 14 years old. They were found just upstream from the Manhunt Bridge, near Deer Creek. You're going to see pictures of the scene. It was a gruesome scene. Libby was completely naked, covered in blood, with her throat cut in several places. Libby's blood was all over the ground in several places and even on one of the trees. Abby She had on her own undershirt, but she had on Libby's sweatshirt and Libby's jeans. Abby had her own shoes on, but no socks. Her throat was also cut. The rest of the girl's clothes was found in the Deer Creek with the exception of two things, one of Libby's shoes and Libby's cell phone. They were found underneath the body of Abby. Also, found at the scene was a lone bullet, an unspent bullet, inches away from the bodies of Abby and Libby, specifically a Winchester .40 caliber bullet. The phone, along with the other items, was sent to be processed to see what evidence could be gathered, to see what they could find. And on the phone were the last pictures taken by Libby of her and Abby. Those pictures that Libby took on the ride in Kelsey's car. There's also the videos that Libby took. The video at the end of the Manhunt Bridge that showed the man that was following Abby. That showed the man who kidnapped Abby and Libby. The man we know is Bridge Guy. As the investigation progressed, witnesses started to come forward with information. You're going to hear from 3 girls that were on the trail that day. Anna Spath, Rayleigh Voorhees, and Brianna Wilbur. And they were on the trail as well, taking pictures of nature with friends, laughing, joking. They stopped and took a picture at a bench just east of the Freedom Bridge. And right after that, they ran into a man along the trail and later described that man as walking with a purpose, but not very friendly. Most importantly, they're all going to testify that that man they saw on the trail that day is Bridge Guy. You're then going to hear from Betsy Blair. She came forward. She was on the trail that day as well. She uses the trail to exercise. She walks the loop on the trail for her to exercise daily. She walked down to the Manhunt Bridge, and when she got to the Manhunt Bridge, she saw the male out on the first platform of the bridge. She'll testify the guy she saw is Bridge Guy from Libby's video. You're then going to hear from Sarah Carbow, who said that she drove east on 300 North that day. She saw a man walking along the side of the road, and that man was muddy and bloody, like he had just slaughtered a pig. And she'll tell you the man that she saw was Bridge Guy. Years passed, and through the years, investigators worked on the case, tried to find additional clues. Included in the people working on the case was a gal named Kathy Shank, and she was reviewing old reports, and she came across a report by a DNR officer, Department of Natural Resources, named Dan Doolin, and in 2017 he spoke to Richard Allen, and he made a report. And when he spoke to Richard Allen in 2017, Richard Allen told him that he arrived at the trails at 1:30. He said he was there until 3:30, and that while he was on the trail, he ran into 3 girls. Kathy immediately took this report to Tony Leggett, who was the detective at the time. You're going to hear Tony Leggett testify that the tip stuck out to him immediately because he knew that if they could find that man that ran into the 3 girls, they would be able to identify Bridge Guy, and so it immediately stuck out to him. Law enforcement immediately called Richard Allen. They interviewed him. Richard Allen admitted that he was on the trail on February 13th of 2017, that he ran into the 3 girls on the trail. He also stated that he was wearing a blue or black Carhartt coat, jeans, and jeans that fit the description of the man on the bridge. Also found out that he owns firearms. Investigators searched Richard Allen's house, and they found a blue Carhartt jacket, several knives and a box cutters, boots, and a .40 caliber gun with a .40 caliber ammunition. The gun was sent to the lab and tested, and it was confirmed that the bullet at the scene was cycled through Richard Allen's gun, that it came from Richard Allen's gun. The bullet that was found between the 2 bodies of Abby and Libby. Richard Allen was brought in for a second interview. The information was put in front of him. He had no explanation for how his bullet ended up between the bodies, and we watched these interviews, and they're on the channel if you want to watch them. I don't know. The story could have ended there. Richard Allen was arrested, and while he was incarcerated, he confirmed what investigators knew, that he was the one that killed Abby and Libby, and it wasn't just one admission, it was several, some with details of the crime, how he did it, why he did it. And these aren't admissions he made while he was being interrogated or being tortured or even being questioned by the police. These are admissions that he told his wife, his mother, unprovoked, admissions that were freely and knowingly made admissions that had details that only the killer would know. You're going to hear those details. For 5 years, he lived in this community. He worked in this community. He hid in plain sight. The state is confident, after you hear this evidence, that you will be firmly convinced that Richard Allen is the man on that bridge that kidnapped Abby and Libby and then intentionally murdered them. That Richard Allen is the man on that bridge and that he used his gun to gain power over the two girls and force them down the hill. The words that he uttered to those girls, that he forced them down the hill and he was going to have his way with them, but he was interrupted. And we're going to talk to you and tell you about that interruption, about after which he forced them to cross the creek and he killed them. The evidence will show the last face the girls saw before their throats were slit were Richard Allen's face. The state believes that you'll be firmly convinced that he is the one that killed Abby and Libby. Thank you. And then Mr. Baldwin gave his opening statement. Richard Allen is truly innocent, truly innocent. And when a man is truly innocent, there will be reasonable doubt from the evidence and from the lack of evidence. It may be hard to believe what you hear, but we ask you to wait. Because in this case, you're going to find out that the evidence and the lack of evidence shows that Richard Allen is actually innocent, and that therefore there is reasonable doubt. We want the truth to come out in this courtroom for the families and for you all, most importantly. So I'm going to preview that evidence you're going to be looking at over the next few weeks. It starts out that you're going to find out that this case and this investigation was messed up from the beginning to the middle, and as recently as the last couple of days. The beginning, you'll find out that evidence was lost. Evidence is gone. Poof. Steve Mullen was in charge of that evidence. We're talking about the important evidence that happens right after they start an investigation. We're talking about evidence of interviews of key witnesses that are gone forever, and Richard Allen and his defense team will never, ever get to see that evidence, and neither will you. We're talking about evidence that they don't even know who they interviewed because they didn't even bother to write down the names of people who were interviewed. We're talking about days and days and days of evidence right after the murders, and that wasn't all. Then, a month later, they lost more evidence. From April the 29th to June the 2nd, they lost interview after interview that we will never see. Richard Allen will never have the benefit of looking at, and neither will you. You'll find out that the defense didn't even learn about that stuff until very late. We had been asking for it. That's the beginning. And in the middle, you're going to find out that the state of Indiana kicked out the FBI. They were having some turf wars. You'll hear about that. Kick them out. That's going to be a problem. You're going to find out because they not only kicked out the FBI, but they got digital forensic people. You're going to find out that their digital forensic people had been given Libby's phone, the extractions from that, and before the FBI had a chance to talk with the state police about their findings, if they had any, they were kicked out. And that is going to be a major problem. You'll find out here in a moment. And then, most recently, 2 days ago, you're going to find out that law enforcement is scrambling a bit. Some of you on the one panel, I didn't talk about it, but on the other one, I did. There is hair found in Abby's hand. A strand of hair was around her fingers with a root and DNA that can be extracted from that root. And DNA was extracted from that root and DNA analysis. And her name is Bozanovsky, Stacy Bozanovsky. She will be testifying. That hair, it might be from a relative of Libby. We know that it's not Libby's hair. The DNA it's not Libby's hair because the DNA is not from Libby. We know that it's not Abby's DNA, it's female hair. All we need to know is whether it's a family member or not, and you're going to find out. You will find all that we need. Stacy will tell you is to test the mom or the grandma or the sister of Libby. And once we do that, we will know whether it's a family member or somebody else. And it could be either. And after I give my mini opening, they scrambled because in 7 years, they never turned over the sister or the mother's DNA over to that lab to find out whose hair that might be. That's even now. I hope that they get that result back of the DNA so the truth could come out in this courtroom Truth, believe it or not, can come out in a phone. These phones, they don't lie. The data, the forensic data on these phones doesn't lie. It doesn't cheat. It doesn't have emotion. You're going to hear all this. The data is hard, and the data is the data is the data. And when you find out what is on this LG phone, is what I'm talking about, the phone that was found under Abby, this case is going to start to fall apart right in front of your very eyes. The man, there's a couple of guys from the state police who are nice fellows. Their names are Brian Bunner and Chris Cecil. You're going to like them, I think. They are in charge of analyzing the phone dumps. You'll get the phone dumps and the extractions, things like that. They're in charge and have been in charge of understanding the data, the hard data that doesn't lie off of Libby's phone. And what you're going to find out is, sadly, they were ill-equipped to understand the data. We'll talk about that in a moment. Chris Cecil will tell you that the data from the phone dump is accurate and reliable, and we're happy about that because the data will be incredibly important in your deliberations and as you follow this case evidence. Well, I think it's important that I tell you what the state's theory is. They kind of previewed it. What I want you to do is I'm going to ask that they be held to their theory, because I think they're going to have to change their theory after this case starts evolving in front of you, okay? Their theory is that Richard Allen, well, strike that. We'll start with Libby and Abby. Libby and Abby and Libby were on the ground in the woods at 4 o'clock. At the very latest 4 o'clock, they were deceased and on the ground at 4 o'clock on the 13th. That's a Monday. It's a Monday, the 13th. And at 5 o'clock, their bodies didn't move. 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, 1 a.m., 4 a.m., 6 a.m. Bodies are still there, according to, this is their theory. 6 a.m., noon, their bodies didn't move. They were there from the 13th at least 4 o'clock. They will say, probably they're going to say more like 3:30 p.m., all the way up until the time when the bodies were recovered. That's their theory. The phone, Libby's phone, they're going to say was under the body. It was under Abby's body at 3:30 p.m., 4 p.m. on Monday the 13th, 5 p.m., 6 p.m., 8 p.m., midnight, 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning, 6 in the morning, all the way up until the bodies were recovered around noon on the 14th, Tuesday the 14th. That's what their theory is. The phone never moves. That's their theory. Hard data. Richard Allen is that he arrived at the trails and parked at the CPS lot. You're going to hear a lot about that CPS lot. I got to try to recreate what you're going to find out. So as you're heading down 300 North, that's the road that takes you to the CPS lot, which is one place where cars park when they want to get on the trail. And Mears lot that you just heard about a little bit further down. So as you're driving down 300 North, there is this CPS lot. You can park there, and then you can cut over to the Monon High Bridge, the Monon Trail. It's about 100 yards or something. And so you're a bit back further on the trail, or you can continue to drive and head into the Mears entrance here. And now that you're about halfway down the trail, if you're following, and the trail kind of runs parallel to 300 North, and then you go down to about 50 yards and you'll be at the trail. And what the state's theory is that Richard Allen drove this way, which is not a normal way, and that he would ever drive. And you'll learn about that. And if it won't even make sense that he drove this way, but that's what they need this to make the case, because you'll find out why. But he drove this way, and then he parked past the Mears entrance and parked in the CPS entrance at 1:30. That's their theory. And at 1:30, 2 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. Now, think about what is going on at the time in their theory. Abby and Libby are being abducted and murdered. 3 o'clock, 3:30, Richard Allen's car, they say, is parked right here at the CPS lot. 3:45, 4 o'clock. Their theory is that Richard Allen's car is parked, and then sometime around 4 o'clock, Richard Allen leaves. That's their theory. You'll also find out that their theory is that once Richard Allen, and this is important, once Richard Allen left, he didn't take their phone. He didn't take Libby's phone, hard data on it, and he never even came back to the crime scene. And they're going to say that that's all going to be important. So that's what they say. Richard Allen, it's what happened to Richard Allen with the phone and with Abby and Libby. What is the defense theory upon the evidence? Well, let me go through the evidence and tell you what the defense theory is based upon that evidence. Richard Allen was never on the trail at that same time with those girls. All this identification business, these girls and all of those, and all on the list of who that is, you're going to see even Rayleigh Voorhees, and these people, they're talking about some guy that's 5'11", doesn't really even meet the description of 5'5" Richard Allen. You'll make your own decisions on the value of their testimony. Richard Allen was gone by 1:30. He had been on that bridge walking on the trail towards that bridge at, 12:31. He's gone by 1:30. Now we know for a fact, and you will learn this from the evidence, that the car is gone by 2:15 p.m. Okay, remember, think about the video is 2:13. His car is gone out of the CPS lot, and if his car is gone, Richard's gone. How do we know that? Well, it's the evidence that we're going to be about that. Betsy Blair, you've heard her name a second ago, and she is going to be an incredibly important witness for y'all. Betsy Blair, you're going to like her. Betsy Blair is going to testify that when she drove by the CPS lot at 2:15, and we know that she drove by CPS lot right around that time because there's a camera that shows her between the Mears lot. I'm sorry, this is the CPS lot and the Mears lot. Right in between, there's a camera off the Hoosier Harvest Store. That's going to be another important thing that you guys are going to be hearing about. The Hoosier Harvest Store will help give us some tentpoles of when things happen. And so we know from Betsy Blair, you're going to find this out, when Betsy Blair traveled past the camera, that 30 seconds or so later, she's going to be at the CPS lot. And when she testifies, you'll hear her tell you what vehicle she saw at the CPS lot at 2:15. Again, remember what their theory is of happening at 2:15. Richard Allen has abducted the girls already, so his car should be here. Well, was his car there? Here's what Betsy Blair will testify to. My dad used to, when I was a kid, had a Comet. She thought it was a Ford Comet, but it was a Mercury Comet in the 60s. It's one of those old-timey cars, You see them out there on the road sometimes, and you're like, whoa, look at that car. And it's very angular. It's got really crisp angles and lines. And she looks at it, and she had a blast from the past. Wow, that looks just like that's how she remembered it. Richard Allen's car that they say he was driving was a 2014 Ford Focus. Looks nothing like a Comet, you will see. That's the vehicle that Richard Allen was not driving. But somebody else apparently was. Richard Allen was gone by that time, and that's why Betsy Blair did not see Richard Allen's car. She saw her Mercury, something that looked like a Mercury, and she will testify to that. And you will hear Steve Mullen, when he's asked about that, if he's consistent, he will say, I don't know how to account for that. There's reasonable doubt on this case. Well, what does the evidence show about what happened to these girls? What evidence is there that we can have to understand what happened with the girls? What will you be seeing in this case? Well, I think you're going to hear from, even today, from Becky Patty, who is the grandmother, and that she and Derek German, the dad, they all live together. You're going to find out kind of what they were doing early in the day on Saturday. I'm sorry, on Monday, the 14th, okay? They might even tell you what they were doing on Saturday and Sunday, but they're definitely going to tell you what they were doing on Monday, the 13th. They had breakfast. They talked a little bit, and then at some point in time, Kelsey German, who's now Kelsey Siebert, will drive Abby and Libby to the trail, and I think she's going to testify today. And we know because of the Hoosier Harvest camera that Kelsey dropped them off at in the Mears lot here. And then she drove just past the camera, and that's about at 1:49 p.m. roughly. So the girls were dropped off at about 1:47, which is going to be about a few minutes before or after Betsy Blair got there. You'll find that out. Betsy Blair and the girls, they were all following. The girls came in right after Betsy, and then Kelsey drove out this way. Okay, let's see here. And she was on camera. And we know then what time the girls got there, and then you will find out the girls walked down to the trail, to the bridge, and the trail is straight. And then when you get to it, it's like, it's like trails, like maybe in your own community, you'll notice that there's asphalt, and it's maybe, I don't know, this wide, and people are walking up and down, exercise and whatnot, and you go down the trail, and then you've got to a point, and there's this bridge that Mr. McLeland was talking, big, scary bridge, and it is. You'll see photos of it. And when you get to that bridge, when you get to that, hold on a minute. Get to that bridge, you can make a choice. Back then, it was easier than it is now. Then you can get on that bridge and walk forward and just go straight to the other end. And those girls got on that bridge probably around 2:05, and that is what the evidence will show. And Mr. McLeland is correct. When they got on that bridge at 2:07, and by the way, they passed Betsy Blair, you're going to find out Betsy Blair will say as she was traveling this way, the girls were traveling this way, and they passed one another. And the girls got on the bridge, and they went down here. Now, the bridge is long and it's high. Now, I'm on the bridge now, and this is what you're going to see. The bridge is it's very long, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous, as Mr. McLeland said. There's holes in it. It's the kind of thing that teenagers would do, probably, and the girls walking on it, when they were about close to halfway across that bridge, 1/3 of the way, 1/2 of the way. You will see that Libby was ahead over here, and she turned around and she took a photo of Abby heading this way, heading to the south end of the bridge where the abduction happens. And you'll see Abby there, and that happened at 2:07, so we kind of have an idea of where the girls were at 2:07. 2:13 is when the abduction happened, so we know that at 2:13 they're at the end of the bridge. So what happened then? Well, that's caught on video in this. This video that you will watch and what you're going to see on the video, it is not very panoramic. You're not going to be able to see what everything is and where everything is and who everyone is there. And you do hear this voice, girls down the hill. Police have to admit that the guy on the video, you don't see his mouth moving. You're not going to be able to be sure that he's the guy that's uttering those words. You're not going to be able to know whether there are more than one person excuse me, at the end of the bridge. So what will you see on that video? And again, let me describe the end of that bridge for you, that you will see in evidence. If I'm walking all the way to the end of the bridge, like the girls, Abby and Libby did, you have a choice, and you're going to see this on the video. You can go left or you can go right. And it looks like on the video, the girls head this way, okay? And if that's the bridge and you head that way, there's one way down. There's a deep, steep incline about 30 feet down the hill, okay? I don't think the evidence they're going to be able to show that these girls actually went down the hill or not. They may have. The evidence may show that, in your opinion, or it may show that they went straight, or that the evidence may show that they ended up going down the lesser of an incline on the other side of the bridge, and the bridge is open, is about that wide. There is a lesser graded slope that takes you down. Both, though, the more steep side and the less steep side take you down and funnel you down to an access road about 30 feet away. An access road, some might call it a driveway. What you're going to hear about is about a guy named Brad Weber. This is his property, and this is Brad Weber's way to get to his property. He has two ways. There's the way, and there's this way and another way to get to Brad Weber's house from the access road. The one way would be you get, let me go back over here to where the bridge is on the right side where the girls are, and you go down that hill, and then you go to that access road. It goes under the bridge, and it goes that way, and it goes way up to Brad Weber's house. So you can imagine that under the bridge, the state of Indiana will not be able to disprove that there was a vehicle down there or that there were other people down there, and we happen to believe that the evidence will suggest that those girls may have gotten into a vehicle at some point in time. There is not going to be strong evidence about what happened at that point in time. I'm just telling you that. You can take it from the information, though, from the hard data on Elle's phone, on Libby's phone, and some other information and data that you may see from other sources. Here's what we know. Libby's phone was connecting to the tower and receiving text messages. Where are you? What's going on? Voicemails, telephone calls, connecting to the tower, all the way up until 5:44 p.m. It's going to be an important time frame for you. 5:44 p.m. At 5:44 p.m., that phone no longer connected to the tower. From 5:44 p.m., no connection to the tower, all the way to 4:33 a.m. when it reconnected to the tower, where the phone came back into an area where it connected to the tower again. So for about 12 hours, close to 10 hours, the phone did not connect to the tower. This is the phone, by the way, that was, by their theory, under Abby's body during that entire time. You will also find out that after 4 o'clock, when they say Richard Allen never came back to the crime scene, never came back to the scene, he left and never came back. Their theory, he didn't take the phone with him. That's what they're going to tell you. That after 4 o'clock, human hands handled that phone. Richard Allen was at home and he never came back. That's the evidence you will hear. Something about what are called exigent circumstances pings. You may have seen those on television. This is on movies and things like that where somebody is lost. And then they called AT&T in this case and said, hey, will you try to see if that phone's in the area? And what happens here, and consistent with what we know from the phone itself, the last time that phone connected, according to the exigent circumstances ping, the last time Libby's phone connected with the tower on the 13th, Monday the 13th, was what time? 5:44 p.m. And there will be something that'll be something that you will hear. And every 15 minutes, that phone was being pinged. And every 15 minutes, it was showing it's not connecting with the tower. The last time she did, 5:44. So at 7 o'clock, 7:15, 7:30. These are in exact times, but at different times, it was roughly in 15-minute intervals. The phone is not connecting with the tower. Around 10 o'clock, you'll find out that Steve Mullen, he's a law enforcement officer that will be a witness in this case, but that he contacted a guy named Mitch Blotcher with the state police. Mitch Blotcher was the guy that knows about the phone pings and how to analyze them. And Steve Mullen wrote up a report about what Mitch Blocker concluded. And he concluded either the phone has not been connecting with the tower since about 5:44 p.m., so either the phone is no longer in working condition or it's out of the area. Well, we know what you're going to find out, that the phone was in working order when it was found, and it was in working order, so take that one down. It's left with the phone without the area, the phone that was supposed to be under Abby's body. So again, you'll learn that at midnight, 12:15, 1 a.m., the phone is not connecting to the tower. And then at 4:33 a.m., and we're not going to be able to tell you, I don't think the evidence will, nobody will ever know exactly when that phone, where it was and when it reconnected or did connect to the tower. Of course, the defense is saying that that phone was out and that it came back in. What we will tell you is that at some point in time, after that phone came back into the area, somebody brought those girls back down to where they were ultimately found. And that was probably after 4:33 a.m. And you're going to find out at 4:33 a.m., you know, when you're in a building and you're trying to text somebody and there's too many walls and you walk outside and then you start getting texts and the texts start. At 4:33 a.m., 15 text messages and then other text messages populated onto that phone once it connected to the tower. You're going to find that out. And at some point in time, and I don't think the evidence will be able to, at some point after that thing with the phone, those girls, somebody killed those girls and somebody put that phone under the body where it was then found around noon, a few hours later. We are obviously telling you that the evidence will be that those girls were not found on the 14th. They were not there on the 13th, and this will be a big help. They were found on the 14th. They were not there on the 13th, and this will be a big help. But is there other evidence out there that would also suggest that the girls were not alone on the 13th? Yes. So you're going to find out that there was a search party assembled very quickly. It wasn't in Libby's nature. I think Becky Patty will tell you this. It wasn't in Libby's nature to be late like she was. And so the family, very close family, they got together right away and said, this isn't right. We've got to do something. So you're going to find out that they sprang into action very quickly, and they got a search party together. And it grew and it grew, Facebook and stuff like that. They got on Facebook and they said, hey, these girls are missing, and you're going to hear from the fire chief, Sterrett, and he's going to tell you about his part in the search party. And there were about 4 or 5, maybe 6 guys here and there who searched for these girls on the 13th, when their bodies, according to the theory, should be over there. If this is I think this is the end of the bridges where it happened. If this is where the bodies were, the girls were abducted. I'm sorry, where the girls were abducted, and then you can go down the hill, Sterrett and his people that were with him. They searched on this side. The bodies, by the way, were over there, and this is where they were. Sterrett and his people searched over here, and then they came over here and they searched over here for 4 hours in the area, and then the girls were across the creek. And one thing you guys are going to find out is that it's not very far from the end of the bridge where the girls' bodies were found across the creek. It's kind of like that way from the edge. So if they went down the hill, here's the bodies. They were found that were probably less than 300 yards. It's about 800 yards and some odd feet, not very far, and that's at an angle. And what Sterrett will tell you is, my people that I was with, and they were spread out, and they were looking on the side. Well, they weren't on the side that the bodies were, but what they did see on the side where the bodies were, people with flashlights on the side of the road. And not one person saw any bodies over there. The defense theory is the bodies weren't there. They were somewhere else. And you're going to find out a little bit about that area, or not a lot, a little, probably a lot more than you want to maybe, that the area where the girls were found, it's flat. And it's a natural place for those to be walking and the flashlights and now Sterrett. I don't want to oversell Sterrett's not going to be able to tell you that they were. The flashlights were from where their bodies were for sure, because he doesn't know, but he just saw flashlights over there. You're going to find out that Mr. McLeland talked a lot a moment ago. There's clothing in the creek, okay? And that's going to be important. One thing you're going to find out in this is that people that were searching, they were preparing for the worst, and maybe those girls were in the creek, and maybe they were floating on top of the water. So many of the people were going to go down along the creek bed looking for the girls. Now, if many of the people who were going along the creek bed looking for the girls, if the state attorney's theories were true, the clothing of the girls that were found on the 14th should be in the creek where the people were searching with their flashlights, and nobody saw anything, any clothing on the 13th in the creek. It was only until later that they saw the clothing in the creek, and an additional piece of clothing that you will have to show that the girls were there on the 13th if there's anything else. Yes, Jerry Holman will tell you that from where those girls were found to the bridge, you can hear the voices. And around the time that their theory is that Richard Allen abducted these girls, there would have to be people walking on the bridge. 4 people. You'll hear from them. Daniel Pearson, Shelby Hicks, Cheyenne Mill, and Shelby Duncan. 2 of them went to the end of the bridge where it's really, again, the bodies are over that way. 2 of them were at this end of the bridge, and very close, I think, that I would call it close to where the bodies were. Again, none of them heard anything. No screams, no voices, no wrestling, nothing. Right around the time when they say Richard Allen was abducting these girls, I mean, if anybody killed these girls, the evidence would show on the 13th, just for that reason alone. There was no sound of anything. The evidence will be those girls were gone. There might be other evidence out there that you guys see individually, but this is the type of case where a jury sees and picks up on things that we don't see. That always happens, especially on longer cases. You guys might pick up, so keep your eyes open and your ears, because you're going to see some things as well, I think. Well, I know I've been going on a long time, and I could go on with this longer, but this is important stuff, and I am going to try to sit down as quietly as I can. But I do want to talk about what I think the state thinks and what they say under oath about bullets, and we'll call it confessions, and the timeline. And I want to go through those very briefly. Confessions. You have this and the other evidence I've talked about, and none of that stuff matters. So they can put up, and I expect that they're going to put up person after person after person, and video after video after video, and audio after audio after audio of all these confessions of an innocent man. But the hard evidence is, it doesn't matter that the hard evidence shows otherwise. And what you're going to find out, you're going to see these videos, and they're going to show you videos of Richard Allen in his cell and how this guy was taken out of his house. And as I said in the mini opening, away from his wife of 30 plus years to a prison where he's standing in this tiny little cell with a bed about that high off the ground, about 2 feet from a toilet, watched 24 hours a day, told he's a baby killer. He went in there, fragile to begin with. You're going to see some video that is upsetting, and it should be upsetting. Even the video of him talking to his stepdad saying, "Don't give me any money. Don't hire me a lawyer." You're going to find out, even in November, within 2 weeks of him being at Westville, he said, "Maybe I'll just admit to all of it so that you guys won't have to suffer." That was at the beginning when these confessions happened. It was after close to 6 months, 5 to 6 months later, after he had endured what he had endured, confessing to shooting these girls in the back when they weren't shot. The things I told you in that mini opening, you take those confessions for what you think they are worth. When you compare it to the other evidence, that's what we will ask you to do. What about those bullets? Well, you're going to hear from some psychologists. Dr. Cristin, Dr. Westcott, they are our experts, and they're going to tell you that the ingredients were there for false confessions, what Richard Allen endured. What about the bullet? The magic bullet, one witness called it. Here you're going to find out, first of all, unless I see something I haven't seen before, and maybe even just missed if it existed as just a kind of maybe these photos exist. I haven't seen them. We'll see. There's the magic bullet that is on the ground, they say, right here. And then you see some photos of that bullet, and it's in the ground. And maybe they will produce these, but I haven't seen them. There's not a video of this important. This is one of their main pieces of evidence. The video, there's no video or photographs of that bullet being taken out of the ground and photographed from that angle and that angle and that angle and that angle. Just a photo of the bullet in the ground. And then later on, a different photograph of a bullet at the lab where it was tested. But in between, I didn't see anything else. So what else? Well, you're going to find out about this bullet, that law enforcement commonly uses .40 caliber bullets. Guns that use .40 caliber bullets, even Sig Sawyers, are very common. And if there's gun people on the jury, they may have heard of the Sig Sauer. That's the gun they found at Richard's house, a very common gun. Law enforcement uses Sig Sawyer's .40 caliber bullets, so you would think, okay, let's test and find out whether it's, as police were walking around the area, did they drop a bullet? Let's see if that happened. Hey, I want every police officer that was at the crime scene walking around, I want to know what kind of gun they had. And if they're missing any bullets, you think that would happen, but it did not happen. I want every .40 caliber handgun that the police had tested. You would think that would happen, but it did not happen. You're also going to find out that Brad Weber, remember that guy? He's the guy whose driveway goes all the way up to his house, right? He had a .40 caliber Sig Sauer in his vehicle, and that handgun was tested, and it was not excluded as the weapon, okay? Here's what you're going to find out about the test itself, and we have an expert named Dr. Warren, and he's going to be very, very critical of the way this weapon, this testing process was handled. Here's the way it was handled. This is what you'll find out. The bullet that they got out of the ground had markings on it that you can see. The bullet, this is important, Mr. McLeland talked about this a little bit. It was never shot. It was never been shot out of a gun. It'd been cycled through a gun. Does it make sense? And it had sufficient markings, the bullet did. So what they did, this law enforcement took a pristine bullet and they put it in Richard Allen's gun. And then they cycled it through to recreate what that bullet, how that bullet came when they found it. And when they took this pristine bullet, after it had been cycled and they looked at it, some of the markings were insufficient. They just couldn't be seen well enough. And they're trying to compare them to this bullet that did have sufficient markings. That's the starting point of the problems with the bullets. So what did they have to do? They had to, law enforcement, they really wanted this to work out. So they fired the bullet. So there's more pressure on it, and the tools and the things inside can show more markings. So now they're comparing a bullet that was fired out of the weapon. Now it has sufficient markings on it to at least see if they're comparing that bullet to the bullet that was found on the ground that had insufficient markings, or that it had sufficient markings. And now this bullet has sufficient markings, and now they're going to tell you, oh yes, they're the same bullet. It's comparing apples and oranges. That's what you're going to hear. And by the way, and look at you all have eyeballs. When you see these comparison photographs, your own eyeballs will tell you that these don't match your own eyeballs. You don't need an expert, folks, because you have eyes. You'll also hear things, I don't want to get too muddled down. You're going to also hear things about subclass. Any gun, let's say a Sig Sauer that fires a weapon, it's going to have similar tool markings. That's what they call it. Or each individual bullet, but they're going to be similar subclasses. And that's some of that's going to go on here too. But these bullets are consistent in some ways because they come from, a gun that was similar. And these subclasses, Mr. Rossi will be handling all of the ballistics, and he will be telling you why that's important and why it shows that the magic bullet is of really no value. You will also hear from Melissa Oberg, who is the state's witness. She no longer works. I'm sorry. I know people might have to go to the restroom. I'm going to be as quick as I can, you guys. I really am. I'm sorry. Melissa Oberg, she will tell you that she no longer works with the Indiana State Police. She's the one that tested the bullets and is the one that's interpreting the evidence of these bullets. And you'll hear her say this when I did this over 1,100, 1,300 times. And when people, I was never wrong. Now, the people that I worked with, I would check their work out, and their work, they were wrong, but I was never wrong. That's the person that's interpreting this bullet. You'll hear her testify. They've got a magic bullet, and we've got other evidence. I'm going to quickly go through the timeline, and then, I'm sorry, this is so important, but we'll talk about Betsy Blair again. Betsy Blair arrives. So the third thing that they can try to say that they have in this timeline on their side, and they cannot. The evidence will not support that. The timeline, Betsy Blair goes to the trails around 1:49, right before Kelsey drops off the girls, right? So she drops them off at the Mears entrance, and they go on to the, Betsy goes onto the trail. She walks on the trails, and she gets to the High Bridge starts, where you see all the evidence. This will start to make some sense to you. It's hard to conceptualize it right now, but the trail ends, and there's this bridge begins. And when she gets to where the bridge begins, she saw with her own eyes, about 50 feet away, a guy who's claiming to as the bridge guy. When they failed to tell you, the state just a moment ago, is that person that Betsy Blair observed was in his 20s, maybe his 30s. He had brown, fluffy hair, and Richard Allen kept his hair short since 1989. His wife will tell you about it. He was in the military. He likes it short, and he obviously isn't 20 years old. Rick is short. Betsy Blair did not say this guy was short, that the guy that they said was the killer. Betsy Blair was maximum volume. I told you about the car that Betsy saw. It doesn't fit the description at all of Richard Allen's car. Totally different. The timeline will be a problem. Sarah Carbow. See, one way to easy to understand that who these witnesses are, and I know it's hard right now, but Betsy Blair is the beginning. I'm seeing them like bookends. Betsy Blair is at the beginning, and then the person that she saw that they say is Richard Allen, the 20-some-odd-year-old guy with the brown poofy hair that's at the beginning, Sarah Carbow at the end, they're bookends, and they're supposed to be the same guy, according to this theory, so that Sarah Carbow, what did she see? Well, what is she going to testify? I think you're going to like her, but her story is just completely inconsistent. But that's what you'll see. In 2017, in June of 2017, she was interviewed, and she said the guy she saw, and they failed to tell you this, the guy she saw had a tan jacket on and was muddy. 2019, 2 years later, after the video's been out, people have been out, her story is now 2 years later. No, well, she didn't say no. She just said, the guy I saw had a blue jacket on and was bloody. Now he was muddy and bloody, like a pig like he had slaughtered a pig. Her story's completely changed. And, you'll have to take her testimony for what you think it's worth. But if Betsy Blair did not see Richard Allen, then their theory is falling apart. And you can conclude that there's reasonable doubt that she saw Richard Allen, and you know what to do. If Sarah Carbow did not see Richard Allen, or you don't trust your testimony, that will be reasonable doubt. And if they didn't see the same person, the person they describe are two different people. They're saying it's the same person, Richard Allen. Their timeline will not work. In the home stretch here, other stuff that's important. This is what I've labeled DNA, Richard Allen. No DNA at the scene. Not connected in any way. Social media on Richard Allen. No connection to the girls. No connection to the scene. No connection to any of those businesses. Forensic data, none of that connecting Richard Allen to anything. Talked about the hair on Abby's hand and just 7 years. Really? I mean, that's what you're going to find out. It's taken them 7 years to figure out whose hair is on her hand, whether it's in the family or not. They're scrambling right now. Here's another thing you're going to find out. Dr. Kaur is the guy who conducted the forensic pathology. He's the forensic pathologist who conducted these autopsies. He's going to tell you that it looks like they were there, that they were 2 blades used on the girl's necks, a serrated blade, and isn't there a lot of stuff here? A serrated blade and a non-serrated blade. And then they're going to tell you that Richard Allen claimed that he killed those girls with a box cutter at some point. Serrated blade and non-serrated blade, this could indicate 2 people. Okay. I'm going to stop there with that opening statements because that is a lot. But I will go and read more of this tomorrow. Let me see. Okay. And for right now, I'm going to tell you good night. And I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. And I hope everybody knows that the Delphi stuff is in here. I'm going to have to go in and tell them somehow about it. I'm going to probably have to make it into maybe its own video. I'll probably have to do that. God bless, prayers. I'll see you tomorrow.